Hello and welcome to Tête-à-Tête, France 24's flagship interview show. Our guest today is Ehud Barak. He's a former Prime Minister of Israel. He also served as Defense Minister and as the Army's Chief of Staff. He joins us from Tel Aviv. Thank you very much for being with us, Mr. Barak.
Thank you for having me.
For the first time ever, Iran struck directly at Israel through a barrage of drones and missiles. Is this the opening shot of a war between Iran and Israel?
I think the answer is negative, and for sure not necessarily a war. The unprecedented Iranian missile attack failed in a dramatic manner as a result of early deployment of many forces that probably at the top of it our Air Force, our air defense multi-layer systems, but there is a great contribution of the Americans, of the Brits, and of you, the French forces and people in the Middle East, and we are thankful for it very much. And because of the dramatic failure of this high volume attack, I think that there is no need and no will to go into full-scale war. Israel very probably will respond, very probably on Iranian soil, but in a way, I believe that will be calculated or calibrated in order to avoid it from deteriorating into a full-scale war.
So your assessment is that Israel should not retaliate massively against Iran in order to avoid essentially a regional war?
Yeah. Exactly. I think that there's no need for it, and we can do it. Of course, there is certain element of wish or wishful thinking here. I hope it won't cause a war. I cannot guarantee it 100%. And I think that the opportunity for Israel as a result of this successful coalition in action, in real action, it's a great opportunity for Israel to become part of an axis of moderate autocratic Sunnite countries together with Israel and America and with certain participation of major NATO players to set ourselves vis-a-vis the axis of rogue entities led by Iran with Syria, Hezbollah, Hamas, Houthis in Yemen, probably backed by Russia. And that's the right direction for us to do. And in order to keep all this coalition together, we cannot act upon our kind of particular wishes of Israel.
Right. Do you think Iran failed because it didn't want to strike Israel or because it wasn't able to?
Oh, clearly it wasn't able. There were some 350 flying machines on the way with no pilots the way to Israel. About half of the ballistic missiles, which carried a more kind of massive explosive kind of warheads, about probably 40% of them failed to even make the whole way. Without any external intervention, they failed, some of them over Iranian soil and other on Iraqi soil or Jordanian. Out of the more than half that made it, the Americans shot a lot. The British shot some of them. The French shot some of them probably even before they reached Israel. And only probably 4 or 5, probably 6 reached Israel. So the achievement is more than 90% of the ballistic missiles were intercepted. In the drones, it was even higher fraction. And the same happened to the cruise missiles. So total failure and quite significant achievement and deterrence. The president created deterrence for the next time. If the Iranians will have to do another such an attack without correcting the elements that led to this failure, it will fail once again probably. And that's quite a tough prospect for them.
Right. According to Iran, this was done in response to an Israeli strike on its embassy compound in Damascus, which killed several officers of Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps. Did Israel miscalculate, not realizing that Iran could strike Israel in return? Was this a miscalculation by Israel's top leadership?
First of all, I want to make a note that technically speaking, the structure that was hit was outside the embassy compound and used by those basically terrorists on behalf of a country, some Iranian people who operate the terrorist activities from Syria. And but having said that, the Israeli authorities and intelligence and the leadership for sure failed in the assessment or underestimated what might be the Iranian response for such an attack on a high-level individual. The main target was a general named Hadi or Madawi, depends when you ask his name. This general was very senior guy, and the fact that a lot of arrogance came out from Israel caused humiliation of the Iranian leadership. So they probably found themselves compelled to do something dramatic, and they did it. It's not the first failure of our leadership that you see now on the screen. They failed, the same leadership failed in October 7 to assess what Hamas is doing. So here is a source of my warning to ourselves. Take wide safety margins when you decide what to do as a response to this missile attack, because the same leadership failed in underestimated the Hamas on October 7, underestimated the Iranians from April 1, and cannot afford underestimate once more the intentional response of the Hamas. That needs a lot of cautious thinking, probably let the blood cool a little bit, and first think and then act, not the other way around.
Right. Speaking of Gaza, 6 months of war, Israel said it would eradicate Hamas and free the hostages. What is your assessment of the current situation in Gaza?
I think the hostages is the most urgent issue. I think that when our leadership is talking, Netanyahu keeps saying, oh, we are one step from absolute victory, just as a victory just behind the corner. That's not true, objectively. Just to remove from the Rafah area 750,000 or something like this in order to enable the operation without causing a major collateral damage, that might take a month at least. And if I take as a precedent how long it took us to destroy the Hamas battalion, so to speak, in Khan Yunis, and apply it to Rafah, it might take 3, 4, or 5 months. So we have about half a year before this ultimate victory, and I'm not talking about ultimate, I don't believe in ultimate victories, but basically to destroy the military and reigning capability of Hamas in Rafah might take half a year. Even now, we have about half of the hostages are probably not alive anymore. If we wait another 6 months, most of them, if not all of them, will come back in coffin. So that makes the whole thing much more urgent. The idea that those hostages, they are not prisoners of war. They are men, women, children, elderly people. Some are older than myself, and they are there because they were deserted, abandoned by our own leadership. So you cannot even think morally and practically of sacrificing those who were abandoned and deserted 6 or 7 months ago on the altar of destroying certain kind of mythical 2 battalions in some refugee camp or some 4 battalions or whatever it was in Rafah. So we have a compelling imperative to look at the wider picture. We need now the negotiation, much more determined negotiations to reach an agreement about the hostages. Then we have to pacify or end the job in Gaza. Then we have to calm down the situation in the north along the Lebanese border with the Hezbollah. and as a result of this, being able to bring back about 100,000 Israelis, both from the area around Gaza and from the strip along the Lebanese border, who are refugees in their own country. They cannot come home. So this is the responsibility of our government now. And the completion of the job in Gaza or the completion of the issue with Iran might take years. It's not an issue, and for sure can wait a month or 2 or 3 months. It's not a problem. So I think that we need to come out of a strategic paralysis that our leadership at the top suffers from. The military operates with significant achievements, but the political leadership did not take any strategic decision from day one. For 7 months, the Netanyahu and the inner circle reject and delay or hesitate to take any strategic decision. For example, we are almost 7 months into the war, and Israel never defined what is the vision for the morning after. To whom are we hand over the Gaza Strip? Who will reign over the Gaza Strip? And that's crazy. There is an old Roman saying, says that if you don't know which port you want to reach, no wind will take you there. And even an effective, strong armed force cannot operate without a clear political directive. That's a tragedy, and I hope that we will wake up from this strategic paralysis and take certain strategic patience in regard to the response on Iran, because they failed anyhow, and focus on solving the other problems. And the problem also, my last remark, there is a simple situation in Gaza. We have a compelling imperative to make sure that Hamas will not reign over Gaza and will be capable of threatening Israel. Element number 2, Israel doesn't have an interest to stay there for the long term. We had been there for a generation, and it ended up with evacuation from Gaza that we decided upon. And the third element is there are Palestinians there. You cannot bring French people or Norwegians or South Africans to reign over there. You should bring back Palestinians. They can be held by some military inter-Arab force from several neighboring countries at the first stage, but they will bring back the Palestinian Authority, hopefully revised and kind of revitalized because they are now very poor and very, very weak. But that's the only practical or viable solution or sustainable solution, and we have to change direction. Instead of going deeper and deeper into the mud, we have to join hands with the Americans, with the Sunnite moderate neighbors, and solve the problem together.
Ehud Barak, I want to thank you very much for appearing here on France 24 from Tel Aviv, and thank you all for watching this show.
Thank you.